Donald Trump's defense team puts forward this argument that a former president should be held completely immune from prosecution for any of the acts that they performed while in office.
Did you know the Supreme Court just told Trump he can't hide behind a made-up immunity shield anymore? That's right. Our orange friend just got the legal equivalent of a pants-down spanking from the highest court in the land. Even funnier? 3 of the justices he appointed joined in on the smackdown. Talk about awkward Thanksgiving dinners. Turns out Trump's brilliant plan to delay his trials until after Election Day just went boom. Stick around to see exactly how his own lawyer accidentally scored the most spectacular own goal in legal history. Remember when Trump claimed presidents are basically untouchable? Well, the Supreme Court just gave him the legal equivalent of a swirly.
Feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple.
The court's very explicit about this. It lays out its framework by saying, quote, "The nature of presidential power entitles a former president to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority."
For years, he's been walking around like he's wearing some magical immunity cape that makes him invincible to prosecution. "I can do whatever I want," he basically told us, strutting around like a rooster in a henhouse. But turns out, the Supreme Court justices weren't exactly rolling out the red carpet for his fantasy legal theories. The scene at the Supreme Court was pure comedy gold. These serious, robed judges were listening to Trump's lawyer try to explain why presidents should basically have king-like powers, and you could practically see their judicial eyebrows shooting up into their hairlines. The best part? Even the justices Trump appointed weren't buying what he was selling. Nothing says you messed up quite like the people you personally put in power telling you to sit down and behave. The justices turned that courtroom into an episode of Who Wants to Be Embarrassed by a Supreme Court Justice? Sotomayor kicked things off with the legal equivalent of dropping a microphone. She asked Trump's lawyer if a president could order Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival and still claim immunity. His lawyer stammered around like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He couldn't just say no because that would torpedo Trump's whole argument, but he couldn't say yes because, well, that's bonkers. But the justices were just warming up. They were rolling their eyes so hard they risked getting a collective migraine while listening to these immunity arguments. It was like watching 9 people simultaneously realize they were stuck at the world's most ridiculous dinner party. They started serving up increasingly absurd hypotheticals, each one more bizarre than the last. One justice even asked if a president could rob a bank and label it official presidential cash collection. I mean, can you imagine Trump in a ski mask passing a note to a terrified bank teller? "Give me all the money. Very legal, very cool. Presidential business." The scenario was ridiculous. But that was exactly the point. They were showing just how dangerous and far-reaching Trump's immunity claims really were. Trump's own appointees on the bench looked like they wanted to crawl under their fancy Supreme Court chairs. Picture Brett Kavanaugh thinking, "I endured all those beer questions during my confirmation hearing for this?" While Amy Coney Barrett was probably mentally reviewing whether there's any constitutional provision for pretending not to know someone who appointed you. With each new hypothetical scenario, Trump's lawyer John Sauer looked increasingly uncomfortable, like a man slowly realizing he forgot to wear pants to a job interview. The justices kept turning up the heat, making him squirm as they dismantled the idea that presidents could do literally anything they want without consequences. The air was practically hissing out of Trump's immunity balloon with each question, deflating his legal strategy in real time. In what might be the most embarrassing moment, Sauer actually admitted that some of Trump's actions were private and not covered by immunity. Legal experts called this the equivalent of scoring a touchdown for the opposing team, a spectacular self-own that undermined years of Trump's sweeping immunity claims. This admission opened the floodgates for the justices to start picking apart which presidential actions were official duties and which were just Trump doing his Trump thing. The end result was what legal experts are calling a 6-3 smackdown, confirming what most kindergartners already understand. Nobody is above the rules, not even presidents, and especially not former presidents with a penchant for orange makeup and creative interpretations of the Constitution. That Supreme Court smackdown wasn't even the worst part of Trump's terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day in court. While the justices were busy teaching our former president that basic "nobody is above the rules" lesson, his own lawyer was backstage preparing the ultimate legal faceplant. It was like watching someone step on a rake in slow motion, except the rake was attached to Trump's entire defense strategy. John Sauer, the lawyer Trump presumably pays actual American dollars to represent him, walked into that Supreme Court chamber with one job: convince 9 of the smartest legal minds in America that presidents can basically do whatever they want without consequences. Instead, he managed to commit the legal equivalent of running the wrong way down the football field while everyone watched in horror. The moment came when Sauer, who had spent months arguing that Trump basically had a magic immunity wand for everything he did as president, suddenly admitted that actually some of Trump's actions were private and not covered by immunity at all. You could practically hear the collective gasp from Trump's legal team as their entire case imploded faster than Trump's Diet Coke consumption rate. This wasn't just a tiny slip-up. It was a catastrophic tactical blunder that instantly transformed the entire hearing. The justices, who seemed bored with Trump's immunity, fairy tale to begin with, suddenly perked up like sharks smelling blood in the water. They immediately started firing questions at poor Sauer about which actions were official presidential duties and which weren't, a distinction Trump's entire defense strategy was designed to avoid. Imagine the scene at Mar-a-Lago when Trump was watching this unfold. Picture him sitting there in his gold-plated TV room, ketchup bottle in hand, ready to throw at the nearest wall. His lawyer, the guy he's paying to keep him out of prison, just accidentally confessed the one thing that could destroy his entire legal strategy. That special shade of orange-red probably spread across his face as he watched his delay tactics circle the drain, because that's what this was really all about. Trump wasn't fighting some noble constitutional battle about the powers of the presidency. He wasn't worried about future commanders-in-chief. No, this was about one thing: delay, delay, delay. The entire immunity claim was just a giant stalling tactic to push his criminal trials past Election Day. If he could just postpone everything until after November, and if he somehow won, he could potentially pardon himself faster than you can say witch hunt. Sauer's accidental confession blew that plan to smithereens. By admitting some actions weren't covered by immunity, he opened the door for the justices to start looking at Trump's behavior case by case, which is exactly what Trump was desperate to avoid. It's like his lawyer accidentally handed the prosecution their closing argument on a silver platter. The worst part for Trump? This wasn't some liberal hack making this devastating admission. It was his own personally selected attorney. The very guy who was supposed to be his legal shield just handed the Supreme Court the perfect reason to reject his immunity claims. Talk about choosing the wrong person for the job. It's like hiring a vegetarian to judge your barbecue competition. While legal experts were busy comparing Sauer's blunder to scoring a touchdown for the opposing team, Trump was probably on the phone with his inner circle, screaming about how he only hires the best people. But the damage was done. The path to delay was blocked, the immunity shield was shattered, and suddenly the possibility that Trump might have to face consequences for his actions became very real. This slip-up revealed the desperate nature of Trump's entire legal strategy. He wasn't interested in constitutional principles or the rule of law. He was just frantically trying to run out the clock. Trump's entire immunity argument wasn't about protecting the presidency. It was about protecting Trump from having to sit in a courtroom like a regular citizen. So that's it, folks. The Supreme Court just smashed Trump's immunity dreams into little orange pieces. And now he's facing his ultimate fear: actual accountability. His legal team is frantically trying to sort his official president stuff from his just Trump being Trump actions, which is basically impossible when your whole presidency was one big personal ego trip. What Trump never understood is that justice doesn't care about your rally size or how many MAGA hats you've sold. The courts aren't impressed by your Twitter tantrums. The strategy of delaying trials until after Election Day? Completely destroyed. Grumpy Trumpy might finally have to face consequences like the rest of us ordinary peasants.